It was a quiet morning in a small neighborhood. The sky was soft blue, the air was fresh, and birds were singing on the rooftops. Emily walked slowly down the street, pushing a stroller with her little son Noah inside. She loved this time of day, when the sun was gentle and the streets were still calm. Noah was just 2 years old, a sweet, curious child who loved to wave at everyone they passed. His little eyes followed every moving thing: cars, bicycles, cats, even falling leaves. Emily smiled as she watched him point at things and laugh. "You like that, huh?" she said softly. Noah giggled and clapped his hands, his curly hair bouncing with every move. He was her world. Since her husband worked away from home for long weeks, these walks were special. Just mother and son, exploring their small world together. That morning, as they turned onto Maple Street, Noah suddenly gasped and began to point excitedly ahead. "Doggy, doggy!" he shouted in his tiny voice. Emily looked up. There, near the sidewalk, sat a golden retriever. His fur was long and messy, his ears drooped a little, and his blue collar looked old and torn. There was no leash, no owner, no one nearby. The dog sat quietly, watching them with calm brown eyes that seemed almost human. Emily's heart skipped. She had always taught Noah not to go near strange dogs. Some could bite or get scared easily. She held the stroller handle tightly, unsure what to do. But before she could say a word, Noah's excitement took over. He wriggled in his seat, his tiny feet kicking, his arms reaching out. "Doggy," he said again, trying to get down. Emily barely had time to react. Noah pushed himself out of the stroller and started toddling toward the dog on his little feet.
"Noah, wait!"
Emily called, rushing after him. But the boy didn't stop. The golden retriever didn't move either. He just watched, his head slightly tilted, tail still. When Noah reached him, something unexpected happened. Instead of stopping to pet him or being scared, the little boy leaned forward and gave the dog a soft kiss right on his nose. The moment froze. Emily's breath caught. Her hands trembled as she stopped a few feet away, afraid of what might happen next. But the golden retriever didn't growl or snap. Instead, he blinked slowly and wagged his tail, as if touched by the tiny boy's innocent act. Then gently he leaned forward and licked Noah's cheek, making the child burst into giggles. Emily stood there, tears suddenly filling her eyes. The sight was so pure, a lost dog and a little child meeting like old friends. Around them, a few people had stopped to watch. A mail carrier paused his bike and smiled. A woman watering her plants on a porch covered her mouth in surprise. It felt like the whole street had gone quiet just to witness this one small miracle of kindness. Emily walked forward carefully, afraid to startle the dog. She crouched beside Noah and touched his shoulder. "Sweetheart, don't do that again," she whispered gently. But she couldn't help smiling. Noah looked up at her, his cheeks still wet from the dog's lick. "Doggy nice," he said proudly. The golden retriever wagged his tail again as if agreeing. Emily reached out a hand slowly toward him. "Hey boy," she said softly. The dog sniffed her fingers, then rubbed his head against her hand. He smelled like rain and dust, as if he had been outside for many days. She could feel his ribs under his fur. He wasn't aggressive. He was just tired and lonely. Emily looked around. "Where's your owner?" she murmured. There was no answer, only the sound of wind through the trees. The dog sat down again beside the stroller, his eyes never leaving Noah. After a few minutes, Emily decided to continue her walk. She gently placed Noah back in the stroller, and they started toward the park. But when she looked back, she saw the golden retriever was following them, quietly, a few steps behind. Every time she turned, he stopped, pretending to sniff the ground. Noah laughed and pointed back. "Doggy, come too," he said. At the park, Emily tried to distract Noah with swings and slides, but the dog stayed near the bench, lying in the shade. Parents whispered to each other, unsure if he was a stray. A few kids tried to go near him, but he didn't move. He only lifted his head whenever Noah called. Emily started feeling a mix of worry and curiosity. Why was he following them? After an hour, she decided it was time to go home. As she pushed the stroller down the sidewalk, the dog followed again, this time more openly. When they reached their gate, he stopped and sat at the curb, tail resting on the ground. Emily turned to him. "You can't come in, boy," she said softly. The dog didn't bark. He just looked at her and then at Noah, his eyes sad and gentle. Emily sighed and went inside. But even as she closed the door, She could feel his eyes watching. Later that evening, when she peeked outside, she saw him still there, lying on the street near their fence. Her heart ached. She went to the kitchen, poured some water into a bowl, and brought it out. "Here you go, boy," she whispered, setting it near the gate. The dog looked up, wagged his tail once, and took a few sips. Then he curled up again and closed his eyes. That night, Emily couldn't sleep easily. She kept thinking about the dog's calm eyes and the way he had licked her son so gently. Noah had fallen asleep smiling, holding his little stuffed puppy tightly, saying "doggy nice" before drifting off. When Emily finally drifted to sleep, the rain began to fall outside. She woke early the next morning and went to check. The bowl was empty and the dog was gone. For a moment she felt sad. Maybe he had found his way home. But when she opened the door to get the newspaper, she froze. There, lying quietly on her doormat, was the same golden retriever. He lifted his head, tail thumping softly against the floor, and looked at her as if saying, "I'm home." Emily couldn't help but smile through her tears. She didn't know where he came from or why he chose them. But she knew one thing. From that morning kiss on the street, something special had begun. Something she didn't yet understand but could already feel deep in her heart. It was just the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through the curtains. Emily opened her eyes slowly, still half asleep, when she heard Noah's cheerful laugh from the living room. She smiled, thinking he was playing with his toys. But when she walked in, she froze for a second. Noah was sitting near the door, pressing his tiny hands against the glass, laughing at something outside. When Emily stepped closer, she saw the golden retriever lying on the doormat again. His tail wagged slowly as Noah giggled and tapped the glass. The dog's fur looked cleaner now, still a bit rough, but his eyes seemed peaceful. Emily sighed, both surprised and touched. She opened the door carefully. The dog lifted his head, wagged his tail once, and stood up, waiting politely as if asking permission to come in. "Hey, boy," she said softly. "You're still here?" The golden retriever took a slow step forward, sniffed her hand again, and sat down near the doorstep. Noah clapped his hands and shouted, "Doggy back!" His little face was full of joy. Emily couldn't say no to that smile. She decided to let the dog stay outside in the front yard for a while. She brought him a bowl of fresh water and a small piece of toast. The dog ate quietly, not like a stray starving animal, but more like a gentle pet who had learned manners long ago. Emily sat on the steps and watched him, wondering who he really belonged to. His collar still had no tag, only a small scratched heart mark. She ran her fingers gently over it, whispering, "Who are you, boy?" After breakfast, Emily packed Noah's bag for their daily walk to the park. As she locked the door, she noticed the dog following again, step by step. "You're really not leaving, huh?" she said with a small laugh. Noah, sitting in the stroller, clapped again. "Doggy, come," he said happily. The golden retriever barked once softly, almost as if he understood. They made their way to the park. The morning breeze was cool and leaves rustled under the stroller wheels. The dog walked on one side, never too close, never too far, like a quiet guard. When they reached the park gate, other parents noticed. A woman with 2 kids looked concerned and asked, "Is that your dog?" Emily shook her head. "No, he just follows us." "You should be careful," the woman said kindly. "Stray dogs can be dangerous." Emily nodded but couldn't agree completely. The golden retriever didn't seem dangerous at all. He was calm, alert, and gentle, especially with Noah. While other kids played, the dog lay near the bench where Emily sat, his eyes following Noah as he toddled on the grass. If another dog came near, he lifted his head quickly, ready to protect. At one point, Noah tripped and fell on the soft grass. Before Emily could even get up, the dog rushed over, standing beside the boy, sniffing him as if checking for any hurt. Noah laughed and hugged his neck tightly. The sight made everyone around stop and stare. It was rare. A stray dog acting like a guardian angel. Emily's heart melted. She picked up Noah and whispered to him, "You've made a friend, haven't you?" Noah smiled and nodded. "Doggy good," he said. When it was time to leave, Emily tried to walk faster, hoping the dog would lose interest and go his own way. But every time she looked back, he was there, calm, patient, and loyal. By the time they reached home, she gave up trying to send him away. The golden retriever sat again near their gate, as if he already knew this was his place. That afternoon, Emily went online to check if anyone in the area had reported a missing dog. She searched local posts and animal pages. There were pictures of lost cats and some dogs, but none that matched him. Maybe someone abandoned him, she whispered sadly. It hurt her heart to think anyone could leave such a gentle soul behind. Noah kept going to the window, peeking out, calling "Doggy" every few minutes. Emily finally went outside with him. The golden retriever stood up immediately, wagging his tail like he'd been waiting for hours. Noah threw a small ball, and to Emily's surprise, the dog fetched it and brought it right back, dropping it gently at the toddler's feet. They played like that for a long time, laughter mixing with the sound of the ball bouncing on the grass. Later that evening, when the sun began to set, Emily noticed something strange. The dog didn't wander off. Most strays would leave to find food or shelter, but he stayed, watching the house as the lights came on. When Emily went to close the gate, he moved aside politely, then settled right back down once she was done. It felt like he was guarding them. That night, Emily couldn't stop thinking about him. She sat on the couch with her phone, scrolling through old news stories. Something about that heart-shaped mark on his collar made her curious. She remembered what an older man at the park had said earlier in passing. Something about a dog named Max who had saved a child from a fire last year. The thought made her pause. Could it be him? Before she could think more, she heard a soft bark outside. She went to the window. The golden retriever was sitting there again in the soft glow of the streetlight. Rain clouds were gathering above, and the wind began to blow. Emily opened the door slightly. "Go somewhere safe, boy," she said. "You'll get wet." The dog tilted his head, looking at her quietly, then lay down again on the mat. Emily sighed. "You're stubborn," she whispered with a smile. She brought out an old blanket and draped it over him. The dog didn't move. His eyes closed, and soon his breathing slowed into calm sleep. When Emily went back inside, Noah was already asleep in his crib, holding his small, stuffed toy dog. The room was peaceful, but outside under the dim light, the golden retriever stayed, unloyal, watchful, as if he had promised himself not to leave their side. In the middle of the night, thunder rolled and heavy rain started falling. Emily woke up and worried about the dog. She looked out the window. He was still there, lying under the porch roof, water dripping from his fur. Something about that sight made her chest ache. She whispered softly, "You don't even know us, but you're still here." The next morning, she expected him to be gone, but when she opened the door, there he was again, standing, tail wagging, eyes bright. Noah screamed with happiness. "Doggy." Emily laughed softly. "You really decided to stay, didn't you?" That day she called him Buddy. It just felt right. The name made Noah laugh, and the dog responded instantly, wagging his tail even harder. From that moment, it was as if a silent bond had been made, a promise of friendship neither of them could explain. Buddy followed them everywhere that day. When the mailman came, he barked once but didn't act aggressive. When a cat hissed from the fence, he chased it away, then returned to lie beside Noah's stroller. Every move he made showed care, not wildness. Emily felt safer with him around, as if some invisible guardian had chosen their home. That evening, as she watched the sunset glow behind the trees, Emily realized something deep. This dog had come into their lives for a reason. It wasn't random. It wasn't luck. There was something special in his eyes when he looked at Noah, a softness filled with memory and meaning, and though she couldn't yet understand it, Emily's heart told her one thing. This was not just any dog. He had a story, a past, and soon they were going to discover it. One that would change everything they thought they knew about love, loss, and the quiet ways fate brings hearts together. Days passed, and the golden retriever, whom Emily and Noah now called Buddy, became a gentle part of their daily life. Every morning Emily found him sitting by the door, tail wagging softly, waiting for Noah to wake up. When the little boy came running out in his pajamas, Buddy's whole body shook with excitement. He barked once, wagged his tail faster, and gently pressed his nose against Noah's hand. It was as if they had known each other for years. Emily couldn't help but smile each time she saw them together. "You really love him, don't you?" she said to Noah. The boy nodded eagerly. "Buddy, my friend," he said proudly. Emily's heart melted every time she heard that. She started to grow fond of Buddy, too. At first she was cautious, watching his every move. But he never once growled, barked without reason, or showed anger. He followed quietly, helped her keep Noah safe, and stayed near the house at night. He was gentle, patient, and kind in ways most humans couldn't be. One afternoon, Emily decided to take Noah and Buddy for a walk around the block. The air was cool and fallen leaves covered the ground. Children played outside and neighbors waved as they passed. Buddy walked beside the stroller like a trained protector, matching Emily's pace perfectly. As they passed an older man sitting on his porch, he leaned forward and said, "That's a fine-looking dog you've got there." Emily smiled. "Thank you. He just started following us one day. I think he might be lost." The old man squinted his eyes. "Lost, you say? Looks a lot like Max. Do you know that name?" Emily shook her head. "No, who's Max?" The man sighed and said softly, "Max was a golden retriever who used to live over on Oak Drive. Brave dog. Saved a little boy from a house fire last year. Poor thing, the family didn't make it except for him. Since then, no one's seen the dog. People said he kept returning to the burned house for weeks." Emily felt a chill run through her. She looked down at Buddy, who was now sitting quietly watching Noah. "Saved a boy?" she repeated. The man nodded slowly. "Yes, they said Max dragged the boy out, but the child didn't survive the smoke. After that, Max disappeared. Some said he ran away, maybe looking for his family. Others said he just couldn't let go." For a few seconds, Emily couldn't speak. She looked at Buddy again, who was staring into the distance, his ears slightly back, as if he understood what they were saying. She noticed the faint scar near his neck just under the collar, the same spot where the old man said Max had been burned by falling debris during the fire. Her heart squeezed painfully. "Maybe Buddy is Max," she whispered. When she got home, she searched online for news about the fire. There it was, a picture of a golden retriever beside firefighters, the same soft brown eyes and the same torn blue collar with a heart-shaped mark. Emily gasped. It was him. Buddy wasn't just any stray. He was a hero who had lost everything. That night, she sat on the porch beside him. "You went through a lot, didn't you?" she whispered, running her fingers through his fur. Buddy rested his head on her lap. His eyes closed as if her voice gave him peace. From that moment, Emily stopped calling him just a stray. He was family. Noah played with him every day, and Buddy never left the boy's side. When Noah learned to throw a ball properly, Buddy would fetch it and drop it gently at his feet. When Noah tripped or fell, Buddy rushed to stand beside him until Emily came running. It was like he had taken a silent vow to protect this new child with all his heart, as if fate had given him another chance to love. But one evening, something strange happened. The sky turned gray and wind blew hard through the trees. Emily was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Noah was drawing on the living room floor, and Buddy was resting near the window. Suddenly, his ears perked up. His body went stiff, and he began to growl softly. Emily turned from the stove, surprised. "Buddy, what is it?" she asked. The dog's eyes were fixed outside the window. His growl grew louder. Emily walked to the window and peeked out, but saw nothing at first. Then, in the fading light, she noticed a shadow move near the gate. A man was standing there, trying to look inside. Her heart jumped. Before she could react, Buddy barked sharply and ran toward the door. Emily grabbed Noah in her arms. The man outside backed away, startled, and disappeared into the dark. Buddy stayed near the door for a long time, growling softly, every muscle tense. Emily called the local security guard, who said there had been reports of suspicious people around the area. "You're lucky your dog noticed," he said. That night, Emily couldn't stop thinking about how quickly Buddy had sensed danger. He wasn't just protective, he was aware, almost like a trained guard dog. It was as if he had decided that this family was now his responsibility. A few days later, Emily went to the store and bought a new collar for Buddy. It was red, shiny, and had a small metal tag that read Buddy. When she fastened it around his neck, he wagged his tail and licked her hand as if saying thank you. "You're home now," she whispered. That afternoon, she watched as Noah and Buddy played in the yard. The little boy threw leaves into the air and Buddy chased them, catching some with his mouth. They both laughed in their own ways, one with words, one with joy. It felt like healing, like life had given them all something to smile about again. But even as happiness filled their days, Emily sometimes caught Buddy staring at the window at night, looking far away, his eyes full of something she couldn't explain, sadness, memory, or maybe longing. She wondered if he still dreamed about his old family, the child he couldn't save. One evening, while Noah napped, Emily sat beside him on the floor. "You still miss them, don't you?" she whispered. Buddy looked at her quietly, then placed his paw on her hand. It was such a gentle gesture that tears filled her eyes. "It's okay," she said softly. "You can love us too." After that, Buddy seemed lighter. He played more, barked joyfully, and even rolled on the grass like a puppy. The neighbors started noticing. "That dog's got a big heart," one of them said. "You're lucky to have him." Emily smiled and nodded. She truly felt lucky. But life has a way of testing love and loyalty when least expected. One evening, as the sky grew dark, clouds rolled in again. Rain began to fall softly and thunder rumbled in the distance. Emily went around closing windows while Noah played with his toy cars. Buddy lay near the door, ears twitching at every sound. Suddenly, lightning flashed, followed by a loud crash somewhere outside. The lights flickered and went out. Emily picked up a flashlight and checked the rooms. Everything seemed fine until Buddy started barking wildly. His bark was different this time, deep, urgent, full of warning. Emily's heart pounded. "Buddy, what is it?" she called, but the dog was already at Noah's room door, growling. When Emily reached the room, she froze. The window was open. Rain blew inside, and muddy footprints marked the floor. Noah was standing in the corner, frightened, clutching his toy. Before Emily could move, Buddy lunged toward the open window, barking into the dark. She saw a figure running across the yard. Without hesitation, Buddy jumped through the window and disappeared into the storm. Emily screamed his name. "Buddy!" Moments later, there was shouting outside. Neighbors turned on their porch lights. The security guard ran toward the noise. Emily, holding Noah close, watched through the rain. In the distance, she saw Buddy standing over a man lying face down on the ground, growling fiercely. Police sirens soon echoed through the street. They arrested the man, who had been trying to break into several homes that night. The officer turned to Emily and said, "Your dog's a hero, ma'am. He caught the thief before anyone got hurt." Tears streamed down Emily's face as she hugged Buddy, now soaked and shivering but wagging his tail. "You saved us," she whispered. Buddy looked up at her with tired eyes and rested his head on her arm. That night, as thunder faded and calm returned, Emily wrapped Buddy in a blanket and let him sleep beside Noah's crib. She couldn't stop thinking about what the old man had said, how Max had once saved a child. Now Buddy had done the same again. Maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. Maybe it was destiny giving this brave dog another chance to protect, to love, and to finally find peace in a new home. And Emily knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning of the miracle Buddy had brought into their lives. That night would stay in Emily's memory forever. The storm had passed, but her heart still raced every time she remembered the sound of Buddy's barking and the shadow that had appeared near Noah's room. The morning after, the street was full of talk. Neighbors came by to check on her, amazed at what had happened. "Your dog saved the whole neighborhood," one man said as he stood at the gate. "If it wasn't for him, who knows what that thief would have done." Emily smiled weakly. "He's not even really my dog," she said softly. "He just found us." But in her heart, she already knew that wasn't true anymore. Buddy wasn't just a stray who wandered into their lives. He was family now. When she looked at him lying on the porch that morning, she saw that he was tired but peaceful. His fur was still damp from the rain, and his front paw had a small cut. Emily knelt beside him and cleaned the wound carefully with warm water. Buddy didn't move. He just looked at her quietly, his eyes gentle. "You're such a brave boy," she whispered. "You protected us." Buddy wagged his tail weakly, then leaned his head against her knee as if to say, "I'll always protect you." Noah came running out with his toy truck and said cheerfully, "Buddy's strong. Buddy, good boy." Emily laughed softly and kissed Noah's head. The house felt full of warmth again, despite everything that had happened. That afternoon, a police officer stopped by to talk to her. He explained that the man Buddy caught was wanted for a string of robberies in nearby towns. "You're lucky," he said. "That dog of yours might have saved more than one family last night." Emily looked at Buddy, who was lying near the door, tail thumping lazily. "Yes," she said quietly. "We're very lucky." After the officer left, she gave Buddy a small plate of cooked chicken as a treat. His eyes brightened instantly, and for the first time since the storm, he wagged his tail happily. "You earned it," Emily said, laughing as he ate slowly, savoring every bite. The next few days were calm. The sky cleared, the air smelled of fresh rain, and the street seemed safer somehow. But Emily noticed something about Buddy that made her curious. Every night after Noah went to sleep, Buddy would walk to the gate and sit there, staring into the distance for hours. Sometimes he'd lift his head and look toward the direction of Oak Drive, the place where the old man said the fire had happened. Emily began to wonder if Buddy still remembered his old home. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe a part of him still hoped to see the faces he lost. The thought broke her heart a little. One evening, she sat beside him again. "You miss them, don't you?" she whispered. Buddy turned his head and looked at her. His eyes had that deep sadness again, the kind that seemed to hold memories no one could erase. "It's okay," Emily said softly, resting her hand on his back. "You're safe now. You have us." Buddy sighed, then lay his head on her lap. She stroked his fur gently, watching the stars appear one by one. For a moment, she thought she saw a faint smile on his face. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A van from the local news channel stopped in front of their house. A reporter got out, holding a microphone, and smiled politely. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said. "We heard about what your dog did during the storm. Would you mind sharing his story?" Emily was shy at first, but agreed. She told them everything, from the first day Noah met Buddy on the street to how he had saved them from the intruder. Buddy sat quietly beside her the whole time, his golden fur shining in the sunlight, his head high like a hero posing for a photograph. The story aired that evening on television. People all around town saw it. The headline read, "Brave Dog Saves Family from Robbery Attempt." Within a few days, Emily started getting calls from people who had seen the story. Some just wanted to thank her for taking care of Buddy. Others wanted to know more about the dog. Then one morning the phone rang and a woman's soft, trembling voice said, "I think the dog in the news might be mine." Emily's heart stopped. "Yours?" she asked carefully. "Yes," the woman said. "His name is Max. We lost him after our house fire last year. He was our family." Emily didn't know what to say. She told the woman to come by. Later that afternoon, a car pulled up to the gate. A woman in her late 30s stepped out, her eyes full of hope and fear. The moment she saw Buddy, she gasped and covered her mouth. "Max," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Buddy lifted his head, then froze. For a few seconds he stared at her, as if his mind was searching through memories buried deep inside. Then suddenly his tail began to wag. He stood up, took a few slow steps toward her, and sniffed her hand. The woman knelt down, sobbing. "Oh, Max, it's really you." Emily stood back, her eyes wet. She could see it clearly. Buddy remembered her. The reunion was quiet but full of emotion. The woman hugged him tightly, whispering his old name again and again. When she finally stood up, she looked at Emily with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe he's alive," she said. "After the fire, they told us he ran away. We thought he was gone forever." Emily nodded slowly. "He's been with us for a while now. My son met him on the street. He's been protecting us ever since." The woman smiled sadly. "That's who he is," she said softly. "He always protects the people he loves. He saved my son that night, but we couldn't save him." Emily's heart ached at those words. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. The woman wiped her eyes and looked at Buddy again. "He found you for a reason," she said gently. "Maybe he needed a new family to love." Buddy turned his head toward the house where Noah was watching from the window. The little boy ran out calling, "Buddy!" The dog wagged his tail and went to him, licking his cheek as usual. The woman watched silently, smiling through her tears. She stayed for a while, talking with Emily. They shared stories about Max, how he used to steal socks, how he loved car rides, how he slept by the child's crib every night. Every story made Emily realize how much pain and love this dog carried inside. Before leaving, the woman knelt again and whispered to him, "You found another Noah, didn't you?" Her voice trembled as she looked up at Emily. "My son's name was Noah, too." Emily gasped. For a moment, the world felt still. It was too much of a coincidence, 2 children with the same name, 2 homes he had protected. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence at all. Maybe it was something bigger, something the heart understood even when the mind couldn't explain. The woman smiled sadly. "I think he was meant to find you," she said softly. "Please let him stay here. He's happy." Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise," she said. "He has a home here." Before leaving, the woman hugged Buddy one last time. "Goodbye, my brave boy," she whispered. Buddy licked her hand gently as if saying thank you and farewell. Then she walked away slowly, looking back one last time before her car disappeared down the road. That night, Buddy slept peacefully near Noah's bed, breathing softly. The little boy reached out his hand in his sleep, resting it on the dog's back. Emily stood at the door, watching them, feeling her heart full. She realized that sometimes life brings souls together in unexpected ways. Buddy had lost one Noah, but fate had brought him another, a second chance to love, protect, and heal. And in that quiet moment, as rain began to fall softly outside again, Emily whispered to herself, "Maybe some bonds never die. They just find new hearts to live in." Buddy's tail thumped once against the floor as if he understood, and for the first time since that stormy night, Emily knew that their home was truly complete. The morning after the reunion, everything felt peaceful again. Sunlight touched the curtains softly and the sound of birds filled the air. Emily opened her eyes and smiled when she saw Noah still sleeping, his little hand resting on Buddy's fur. The dog had slept beside him all night, not moving an inch. His breathing was calm, his eyes half closed as if guarding the child even in his dreams. Emily stood there for a long moment, watching them. The memory of the woman from yesterday was still fresh in her mind. The tears, the hug, the way Buddy had looked at her as if remembering another life. It was bittersweet but also beautiful. He had found love again, and maybe after all the loss and pain he had finally found peace. When Noah woke up, the first thing he did was hug Buddy tightly. "Good morning, Buddy," he said with his sleepy voice. Buddy wagged his tail and licked his cheek, making him laugh. The sound filled the room with warmth. They had breakfast together, Noah eating his cereal, Emily sipping her tea, and Buddy sitting near the table, waiting patiently for his treat. Emily placed a small bowl of scrambled eggs near him. "You've earned a good life now," she said with a gentle smile. Later that day, Emily took Noah and Buddy to the park again. The weather was perfect, with a soft wind blowing and children playing everywhere. People recognized Buddy instantly. Some clapped, others came forward to pet him. "That's the hero dog," one woman said. "He's famous now." Emily laughed softly. "He doesn't care about fame," she said. "He just wants to play." Noah threw a small red ball and Buddy ran after it, his golden fur shining under the sunlight. He returned it proudly, tail wagging, eyes bright. For the first time in a long while, Emily saw pure joy in him. No sadness, no weight from the past, only happiness. An older man sitting on a nearby bench smiled and said, "That dog's got an old soul. You can see it in his eyes." Emily nodded slowly. "Yes," she said softly. "He's been through a lot, but he still believes in love." After a while, Noah grew tired, so they sat under a big oak tree. Buddy lay beside them, resting his head on Noah's lap. The boy gently patted his fur and whispered, "Buddy, I love you." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she looked at them. It was hard to believe that something so small, a child's kiss on the street, had led to all this. A lost dog, a lonely heart, and a child who needed a friend had found each other in the simplest, most beautiful way. Days turned into weeks, and Buddy became more than a pet. He was a friend, a teacher, and a silent protector. He seemed to understand everything that was said in the house. When Noah cried, Buddy would bring his toy to comfort him. When Emily looked sad, he would place his head on her lap until she smiled again. One afternoon, Emily received a small letter in the mail. It was from Claire, the woman who had been Buddy's first owner. Inside was a short note and a photograph. The picture showed a little boy hugging Buddy, both smiling with the words written on the back, "Thank you for giving him love again." Emily sat quietly for a while after reading it. She looked at Buddy, lying near Noah's feet as they built a tower of blocks together. "You see?" she whispered. "You were meant to heal, and now you're healing us too." That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky orange, Emily took Buddy and Noah for another walk. The streets glowed softly in the golden light. Children were returning home, and the air smelled of freshly baked bread. They walked past the same street where it had all begun, the place where Noah had first seen the dog sitting alone on the sidewalk. Emily stopped for a moment and smiled. "Do you remember, Buddy? This is where you met us." Buddy turned his head and wagged his tail as if saying yes. Noah clapped his hands. "Doggy kiss." He shouted happily, remembering the first kiss he had given. Emily laughed, her eyes shining. She knelt down and hugged both of them, the boy and the dog. "That day," she said softly, "you changed our lives." On their way back, they passed by a small animal shelter. Emily saw a few stray dogs behind the fence, wagging their tails, hoping for someone to notice them. She stopped for a moment, thinking. Buddy stood beside her quietly, watching the other dogs. When they got home, Emily told Noah, "Maybe we can help other dogs like Buddy someday." Noah's eyes lit up. "Yes, we can bring them home," he said. She smiled. "Maybe not all at once," she said with a laugh. "But we can help," and they did. Every week, Emily and Noah began visiting the shelter. Sometimes they brought food, sometimes blankets, and sometimes they just came to play with the dogs. Buddy always came along, as if showing the others that there was hope. The shelter staff often said, "He's our lucky charm." Whenever Buddy visits, a dog gets adopted. Months passed, and their house became a place full of laughter and peace. Buddy was older now, his fur showing tiny strands of gray, but his spirit was still strong. He still followed Noah everywhere, still guarded the gate every night, still greeted Emily each morning with gentle eyes. One winter night, snow began to fall for the first time that year. Noah ran to the window shouting with excitement, "Snow, Mommy!" "Look, snow." Emily wrapped him in a coat and opened the door. "Go ahead," she said. "You and Buddy can play for a bit." Noah ran into the yard, laughing, throwing snowflakes in the air. Buddy jumped around him, catching flakes in his mouth, his tail wagging wildly. Their laughter echoed through the cold evening. Emily stood by the doorway, watching with a warm smile. In that moment, she realized something simple but powerful. Life had come full circle. A lonely dog who once lost his family now had one again. A mother who worried too much had found courage and kindness. And a little boy had learned that love could come from anywhere, even from a dog waiting on the street. When they came back inside, both were covered in snow. Noah's cheeks were pink, and Buddy shook himself, spraying snow everywhere. "Buddy!" Emily laughed. "You made a mess." Noah giggled and hugged him tight. "He's funny, Mommy. I love him." Emily smiled, her heart full. "Me too, sweetheart," she whispered. "Me too." That night, after putting Noah to bed, Emily sat on the porch with a cup of tea. Buddy lay beside her, his head resting near her feet. The street was quiet, covered in white snow, glowing softly under the lamppost. She reached down and stroked his fur. "Thank you," she whispered, "for finding us, for saving us, for teaching us love again." Buddy looked up at her with those wise eyes, and in that silent gaze she felt everything, gratitude, peace, and something deeper that didn't need words. Inside the house, Noah stirred in his sleep and mumbled softly, "Buddy, good boy." Emily smiled through her tears. "Yes," she said quietly, "the best boy." As the snow continued to fall outside, their home glowed warmly. The story that had begun with a simple kiss on a street had now become something beautiful. A story of second chances, loyalty and love that never fades. Buddy's tail moved gently, tapping against the floor as if agreeing. Then he closed his eyes, the calmest he had ever been, surrounded by the family he had waited for all along. And from that night onward, whenever people walked past Emily's house, they often saw a golden retriever sitting proudly by the porch, watching the world with kind eyes. The dog who had once been lost, but who found his way home again through the heart of a little boy.